Hello guys, so I was asked what were the best striker a person could build as a secondary striker in a rainbow team. So this person was saying that they weren't cancerous, so I'm just gonna not talk about legends, but if we were, of course, I'd be saying Miri, then second Vonchi William, and then Leventor, but that's the very basic standards. Now, when we're looking at strikers, I am going to skip most all the strikers that require a legend, that require mono, or that are long shot strikers, just because all of those are going to be requiring a specific set of skills and ability to really max them out. So when we're talking about more regular 5-star strikers that are what you're going to mostly find in the rainbow, there are 5 that are going to be coming out. If you want to go fast, just look at the top tabs. I'm just going to point out why all 5 are good. First thing is you got to know that Dark currently has a huge advantage because the top 2 goalkeepers are Presti, who is Dark, so you don't get countered elementally, and the second is Glade, who usually runs Magnus and Nerua, meaning that Dark is the only element not being elementally countered. So combining both of those facts, running a Dark Striker in PvP currently is very powerful as they don't really have a counter. Of course, there is a Scylla, and you should run a second striker in case you face that. But if we're looking in higher league, you won't find that many Scyllas. Well, I do, but I'm me. So when we look at Damien, he's going to be more on a penetration, high damage output, and honestly, if you build him correctly, you should be able to completely ignore critical rate. That's the difference between him and Lucid. Damien just comes with a huge amount of power. You got some penetration, some attack power. He steals more attack power. He DI, we don't really care about that. Increased damage dealt to goalkeeper. It's like critical damage, except it doesn't care about critical rate. Increased damage dealt to Ardor players. Usually you would throw with him a Harmeris and Armel, and then you would be throwing some stones that would be just increasing his raw damage. You would not waste any time giving him critical rate. What is imperative with him is trying to get him as close as possible to 100% penetration and giving him 2 Ardor critical damage stones for the DI. That's just going to be really powerful. We know he won't crit, but it's for the damage increase you're doing it. And then on a different note, we're going to have Lucid, who's more going to be a passer-based striker. So her value really comes from receiving pass effect, because when she makes a pass or gets a crit, she gets received pass effect by 150%. She also comes with penetration. So what you're mostly going to be doing with her is giving a crit rate, penetration, and a decent amount of dribble. You do need to note that she doesn't really work in a damage increase meta because she's more receiving pass effect, and she's going to be much more powerful if there are 2 passers in the front line. So you're not going to waste time putting Ardor critical damage stones, and it's going to open you up to more things, but you should always try to get her penetration to at least 80%. Some good players exist for that, and you can do a little bit of workarounds and do backline stuff like Jiho, for example. Depends who you got. Of course, Affection to Balton is extremely powerful if you haven't just run them with her. Next, we have Kyoko. Now, she is in the Ardor section, so they kind of are getting really bad in the current meta just because they're being dual countered by the top 2 goalkeepers. One is Magnus, the other one is Dark, running Patrika, giving double res, so it's not that great to be Ardor nowadays in PvP, but ignoring that, what's good about Kyoko is she kind of has everything in her kit. She has receiving pass effect, penetration, critical damage, critical rate, attack power. It's basically all there, who actually means you can build her different ways. Her stoning isn't ideal though because there are 2 Ardor slots. If there was a light slot for PV, it could be even cooler. You can always reroll her if you feel like it, but this will open the door to a lot of test runs, and there are a lot of potential with her. You should be able to give her usually around 100% penetration. Really take advantage of the receiving pass effect, because usually most people don't even have that. Take advantage of the critical damage, give her some high crit. A lot of stuff can be done with her. Again, a lot of potential, no problems here. And the good part of having a bit of everything is that if there's, for example, attack power decrease, receiving decrease, it's not going to be taken out of her value at the same value. For example, if you have 100% and you're being decreased by 20%, you lose 20, but here it's going to be considering 140 and minusing 20 on those, meaning you're actually losing much less. So it's kind of immune to certain types of debuff in a way. Then we've got Char, aka the Queen of PvE. She's very powerful because she's really great in burst damage. She has increased attack power 140%, critical rate 50 again. You gotta make her crit though for it to work. Increase inflicted damage by 20% with an attack. Deal damage to additional to goalkeepers. Increase damage dealt to dark attribute players. All of that is pretty strong. Her one weakness is she doesn't have a light slot, and most people will reroll her to have a light one to be able to run SOB. I personally tested to see how far I could take her without rerolling her, and I was stuck when I reached COD 48. So it's kind of limiting, to be honest, but you can get up to 48, depends how endgame you are. I just run Vonchi most of the time. Then, in the same idea again with PV and PvP in mind, Shanti is currently considered pretty much the best striker. As long as you're not facing Glade, because yeah, that can be annoying, but she's pretty damn strong for multiple reasons. One, she has the light slot, meaning that she can run SOB. Being able to run SOB gives her huge value in PvE, and she also has 3 different slots, so it gives you a lot of option, especially Thunder Receive passive effect is pretty strong. You can put on a Dragon Bone. There's a lot of cool stuff you can try to do with it. Sadly, none are Ardor, but 3 good options. Shot, increase attack or critical damage, critical rate, inflicted damage to Ardor and Thunder players. Again, this is going to be able to help you deal with Glade, but it depends what kind of satanical Glade line you're facing. Increase damage at the target received by 20, decrease the crit resistance. So again, the idea here is going to be, as always, to build around a decent amount of penetration. You make her crit because she's going to do some nice crit, and she has some nice damage increase. So pretty decent too, above. If I were going to say, it depends always who you're facing as a goalkeeper, but the top ones this season are pretty tied between Damien and, not Damien, I mean Lucid and Shanti, and of course, always depends your legends, your line, and how you're going to make them work. Just a keynote, whatever you're planning to build as a secondary striker for the person who asked this question, you don't want to have 2 strikers of the same element, because again, if you get countered by one, you're going to be countered by the other, because elemental counters are annoying. For example, if you see a light player and you're dark, you're usually going to want to try to switch to a Thunder Striker or something like that. The thing is, I know I haven't mentioned Light and Thunder, and that's because they don't have any really good 5-star strikers outside of Mono or outside of you knowing exactly what you want to say. And I know some other strikers weren't mentioned, but I just mentioned the more efficient ones. I mean, I personally didn't even mention my own. So I hope this helps people understand the basics. If you have any questions, comment, write them down in the comments below. Have a good day, guys.